Hey, this video is brought to you by Squarespace. Thanks, Squarespace. Yay. Hey, wow. Hi. My name is Thomas Brush. I'm the creator of a game called Pinstripe. I'm also working on a game called Neversong that's releasing in May. Is it already May? It's May. So it's releasing sometime this month. And it's not May, is it? I don't know what today is. But yeah, click the link in the description to wishlist those games. They're going to be on pretty much every platform you can think of. Pinstripe already is. And that would be cool. Thanks, guys. So I'm running out of ideas. And that's not surprising considering I'm almost 30. And I feel like the older I get, and I know that that's not that old, but the older I get, the harder it is to come up with game ideas and story ideas and I guess feel stuff, right? It's weird. You just sort of, you have a family and you have bills and things just sort of start to get a little bit dry and gray. And that's just the nature of, I guess, getting older, and I'm not worried about it. It's just the way it is. And so I want to sort of discuss openly and honestly with you guys what that's like and maybe some solutions that I've been thinking about how to come up with game ideas and story ideas or whatever your creative project is. It's going to be a weird video because I don't really know what I'm going to say, but I have some thoughts. Okay, guys, before we get started, this video is brought to you by Squarespace. Believe it or not, I've been wanting Squarespace as a sponsor for so long, mainly because Squarespace is awesome. I've been using Squarespace for, I think, 6 years. Both my websites, thomasbrush.com and atmosgames.com, where I host my games and my portfolio, my resume, all that cool stuff is hosted on Squarespace. It was created with Squarespace. Squarespace is cool because you can look amazing. You can have custom designs and pretty much do anything you need to do for your business or your own personal brand, all with Squarespace, and you don't have to know how to code. So if you guys are interested in creating a website with Squarespace, click the link below, squarespace.com/ThomasBrush, and use the promo code ThomasBrush for 10% off. Yay, yay, I love Squarespace, I really do. Thanks, Squarespace. There's a couple things that I've realized before I get into like 6 tips about how to find game ideas. I kind of want to just at the beginning of this tell you my thesis. I think basically the more comfortable you get in your life, the harder and harder it is to express yourself and feel anything, honestly. So, I'll be honest with you guys. I've been pretty comfortable lately. I'm not struggling financially like I used to. Things have gotten a lot better, actually, in the last couple months. Weirdly, because the economy is seemingly collapsing, but when it comes to games, I'm actually doing all right. So I'm not really as nervous as I used to be about life, and my relationships are pretty good. Relationship with my wife is great. My family is great. I have friends and a community, and nothing is really problematic, really. There's been some recent struggles, but overall, things are pretty good. And I've noticed that when things get really good, the quality of my work declines. And that's a shame, because it means that in order to have good work, good game ideas, good story ideas, you need to remain in turmoil. And I know that sounds, what's the word, masochistic? I don't know if that's the right word, but it's true. If you're not emotionally connected to the world, if you're not plugged into the world, you might feel comfortable, but you're also not going to be able to express the world to other people, express what you're feeling. So I found that, and I talked about this in my previous video, I found that it's important to be emotionally connected to the world in some way. And that means doing things and experiencing the world in a painful way and a way that you're not necessarily comfortable with. The common phrase is getting out of your comfort zone, right? And I've been pretty comfortable lately, and I'm learning that that's not a healthy way to be when you're a creative person. So that's my thesis, right? The thesis is, if you want to be a good creative, you need to be experiencing pain, and you need to have an emotional connection and turmoil with the world, because quite frankly, we're all experiencing the world in probably a painful way to some degree. Most people experience the world in a painful way. The world is not easy for most people. And so if you find yourself in an easy situation, it's kind of not real, because the truth is that we're all going to experience the world in a very painful way. And honestly, the world takes everything from us eventually, right? And so it's important to remember that and try and connect to that in expressing yourself. So I've got 6 ways to trigger new ideas with that thesis in mind. So the first one is you need to change your environment. I live in the suburbs in South Carolina. It's a beautiful day outside. I hang out with my family every day. My wife is actually just down the hall. My daughter is playing with her toys in the next room. It's very important, especially during this virus, to safely get out of your little bubble and experience the world. So I've found that if I go and just ride my bike, so I bought a new motorized bike a couple days ago, and if I just ride that around and experience, a mile down the road, experience what is a mile down the road outside of my little bubble, suddenly I think new ideas start to pop into my head. And I think it's because our mind knows how to be comfortable. It figures out, it's like its default instinct is to find the most comfortable mental state. And when you put yourself physically outside of your current situation, so you go on a walk, or you go to a new place, or experience a new city, your brain suddenly has to reroute and figure out a new comfortable place to be. And so I think it's really important. It's not a huge long point, but I think it's really important for you guys to go on a walk, go on a run, go on a bike ride, get out of your house safely, right? And following the law, which is unfortunate, but I think it's really important to get out of your house, get out of your comfort zone, and go to a new place. And suddenly you're going to find that the ideas are just a little bit more energetic and a little bit more unique. The second thing that I've been learning is, this is really actually super relevant to me right now. Throw out all of your plans for your game, or if you're writing a script or you're doing some kind of piece of artwork or any creative project, get rid of the plans. Get rid of the financial goal in your head that's so concrete. I mean, it's good to have a financial goal of what you want to make off of your project, but if it's so solid and it's so important to you, you're going to find that it just ruins your whole paradigm of creativity. I'll give you what's been happening to me lately. There were several publishers that I had in mind for my next game, and they were throwing out financial numbers to me over email about what they were thinking the game might cost. And that was exciting to me because it meant that I could make a really big game and I could release it on this massive platform and with this massive publisher, and that would be so cool. What that did for me is I started to cater is that the word? Yeah. I just thought about Chipotle being catered to me and I got hungry. I don't know if that's the word. I started to cater my designs and my story and the gameplay mechanics, and everything was based around what that platform and what that publisher wanted from me. So honestly, it kind of turned into an employee-employer relationship. That's not always a bad thing. It's definitely okay to create projects for publishers. But for me personally, this is a big no-no, because what it did is it made me create a game that I didn't want to make. So you guys have probably noticed in my live streams, I'm sort of going all over the place with my game. Sometimes it looks a different way, and other days it looks a different way. Sometimes the story is one thing, and then it changes the next day. And that's because I'm literally in a battle between what I was told might be important to a specific platform, and then also what was in my own heart, what I wanted to make. The intro sequence for my next game in my head has always been a businessman walks up to an edge of a building and jumps off the building. Suicide is very dark, very deep and challenging introduction to a game. And the audience, if it was children, the game would not sell, right? But what I've learned is if I avoid that introduction for my game, I'm not telling the story that my heart is connected to. I'm not telling the story that I think is probably the only story I've got currently in my heart that I want to tell. I don't really have any other options. So if I try and cater myself to what a specific platform wants from me, I'm probably not going to find an idea out there that I'm willing to spend my time to tell. So I've pretty much thrown out the idea in my head. I've thrown it out, the idea of signing with specific publishers or specific platforms. Right now, I just don't care. I just want to make a great game. And so I've pretty much decided I'm not going to think about the money. I'm not going to think about the publisher or the platform. I'm just going to make what I want to make. All right. The third way to find ideas is to find some kind of emotional turmoil. But it's important to remember that you need to also find your security in games. Now, I'm not saying make your complete identity in the games you're making or the creative project you're making. That's a recipe for depression. I think what I'm trying to say is find emotional insecurity in the things in life that you would expect, but try and keep the confidence and security you have currently as a game developer. And that obviously is a huge ask. The reason I say that is because it's really important to be emotionally connected to something that might be painful. Meaning, don't just ignore your family if they make you feel pain, right? If your family hurts your feelings, or your friends hurt your feelings, or I guess people in your life make you feel pain. Sometimes it depends on what I guess your therapist tells you. But in my opinion, it's important to try and stay connected to people who give you a little bit of pain because they connect you to the real world and they make you feel things that you're not going to feel otherwise. It's going to help your work to be connected to painful people and painful situations. That's just the way the world is. However, it's important to not let that pain cause you to have insecurity in your dream of making games and making great games. So experience the volatility of the world over here, but also try and ground yourself in confidence about your game so you can confidently pursue the expression of the pain that you have in this world. I'm not saying be a masochist and just go cause yourself emotional turmoil. I think plenty of us already have that without even trying. But if you're in a situation where you're really comfortable playing video games, watching Netflix, drinking beer, eating pizza, going to the bar with your friends, that's not really experiencing the world. Experiencing the world is going to be painful and uncomfortable. But that's honestly the only real way to create great content. Because in the end, the content you create is an expression of what you've experienced. So there's really no way getting around it. If you're going to plug yourself into the world, you're going to feel pain. But that's a good thing because you can express that pain to other people who are also experiencing that pain. But again, remember, be confident in your game so that you can express those negative feelings. Step out of security. Go do something that scares you. Go do something that's interesting. Go jump out of a plane, right? I went skydiving. Actually, this is funny. Because I decided to do something that terrifies me, which I'm pretty much scared of heights. Probably not as bad as most people who are scared of heights, but I am scared of heights. I went just jumped out of a plane last year, I think it was, and that terrified me. But my next game has skydiving in it. So that immediately an idea came from doing something terrifying. and it was that simple. So think of something right now. What is the last thing you want to do right now? Go do that thing, and you'll probably get some ideas for your project. That's the unfortunate truth. You guys are probably hearing an echo of that thesis from the beginning of this video, which is if you want to have great content, you probably need to experience a little bit of jolt of pain or discomfort or insecurity, and your body and your mind will, and this sounds woo-woo, but it's not, your body will immediately start to produce some kind of feelings and emotions to deal with that pain, and those feelings result in good ideas. All right, so the fifth tip to come up with good ideas for your game or your creative project: talk it over with someone you trust. Think about some people you trust right now. Not necessarily people who are good with making games or anything, just people who have your best interest in mind, really care about you. It could be your grandmother. Go talk to her about your game ideas. It's not necessarily that she's going to give you ideas, it's that she's going to affirm what you're thinking and maybe even help you feel confident enough to pursue an idea that you think might be stupid, but in reality is great. Sometimes I think about Notch, talking to his grandma and saying, I have this idea where you place, squares, and then you break the squares and you collect the squares, and then you do it again and again and again. It sounds like maybe an idea that you'd go, that's a terrible idea. I'm not gonna make a game like that. But all he needed, I don't know what his story was, but all he needed was someone to go, that's kind of cool. You should make that game and you should call it Minecraft. Sometimes we just need some affirmation about an idea. I can tell you I've got like 6 or 7 ideas that I'm really insecure about right now that I just don't want to pursue because I think they're stupid. But sometimes I'll tell those to my parents or my family or my wife, and they'll say, I really like that idea. That's a cool idea. And in my head, I wasn't feeling secure about it, but now I have that security to move forward and take the next step to making that idea come to life. All right, the 6th and final tip about coming up with great ideas is, honestly, guys, just consume content you're not used to. Overall, this tip isn't, there's nothing really to flesh out here other than just consume content that you don't necessarily approve of or that you're used to. And this is going to sort of stretch your mind a little bit. I've found that it's important to just consume content in general. And for some reason, I don't know why I'm this way, but it's really hard for me to consume content. I like to make my own content, but it's really hard for me to sit down and play my Nintendo Switch or sit down and watch a Netflix series. It's kind of like hard work for me in a weird way, mainly because I get jealous, right? I get jealous of what I'm looking at. But I find that if I consume that content, especially content that I don't fully understand, content that my emotional predispositions are used to, if I consume that content, I find myself the next morning considering making a game that has some of the aspects of that content in it. A good example of this is, what's that game called? Man. Calamari? Weird Nintendo Switch game. Tell me in the comments. There's this game where you're on these islands. It's recent. It's on Nintendo Switch. And you can wear this hat and explode the hat and make these little creatures and critters on the island laugh at you. And it's all about exploring this island and getting to know characters on the island. And it's very bizarre. It's very childish. It's definitely not my style or my sensibilities. Very, very abstract. But I just watched a Let's Play of that game for like 3 hours. One day when I was sick, I was kind of forced to just watch a Let's Play. And that single 3-hour Let's Play is what sent me into a sort of a brainstorming session about a game idea that I was having about islands in the sky. And I was having this idea, but this game helped sort of fortify that, or this sort of helped solidify that game idea. And so just consuming 3 hours of content that's weird, that I'm not used to, helped build up a new idea. And who knows, maybe it's going to be $1 million idea. I don't know. But guys, that's basically all of the tips that I've been thinking about over the last couple years about how to create good game ideas. If you guys like this video, leave a comment, subscribe.